Kathy. How are we doing today? Good. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, my name is Andrew. I'll be your artist today. I'm going to be teaching you how to draw an amazing character from a beloved film, Lady and the Tramp.
Ooh.
Drawing Lady.
All right.
Now, before we start with that, a couple things to go over. Up at the top, we have Mia. Everybody say hello, Mia. She's going to be helping us out. So if your pencil breaks, your paper rips, raise your hand really high. We'll get you a new one. If you need to leave, same for the entrance doors there. Those are your exit doors. The one on the end that Mia is pushing open, that's the easiest of the three to get through. The other two are very stubborn. Now, in this class, we are doing something called rough sketching. Who's never been here before? Who's new? Okay, cool. Well, welcome back, alumni, and welcome to our new friends as well. Now, for our new friends, we do not have erasers on our pencils. It's a big part of rough sketching. As it sounds, it's going to be a little messy, a little rough. But we are starting with very light lines, and then we'll darken things in later that we like. That way we can see our sketch. But if you make a mistake, totally fine. Leave it light, and it'll just fade away by the end. Now let's go ahead and get started here. For Lady, we're going to start things off with a circle. And we're going to place this towards the top of the page. We're not really going to have anything above this. Going around and around, lots and lots of lines here. Now we need one guideline in here so we can actually really get started. I'm going to find about halfway on the right side of the circle. I'm going to bring a diagonal line downward and up here. Lady is a Cocker Spaniel, and they have really short snouts. So for that snout, I'm going to start with a diagonal line going down to our guideline. And I'm going to pull another diagonal line down towards the bottom. And bring another one towards the bottom of our circle. And connect that up. Nice and light. Create that snout. And the bottom of the snout is not this blocky though, so I'm just going to add in another little line in here. Create a little triangle at the bottom. And we can start to move from here. So I'm going to go towards the front of the snout area, and we're going to pull down a little S curve. So I like to pull directly down into the left, and we'll go down. I know, it can be tough. I'm also locking these lines in here. So this little S curve I just made, I'm going to lock that in. I don't need to change it. I do need to make this less square for the top though. Little dog nose, we want it to be very rounded. So I'm going to add a C curve and then round out the top of the little hill. Create that as well. Right. If you'd like to, you can even add a bit of shading on the inside, or you can leave it to the end, because we're also going to do shading at the end. But from this point, I'm going to lock in our diagonal line going back to the circle. We'll kind of leave that there. We actually want to add in the character mask for her eyes. So there is this oval that goes around her eye shape here, and it goes on top of that guideline, up our circle. It's really just touching the edge of that. Now this oval that we just added, we can use, we're going to lock in the top section, and it's going to create more of that eyebrow line for us. Now dogs don't really have eyebrow lines or anything, but in animation you can fudge it, and it really helps out to build or show emotion a lot easier. So a lot of these dog characters are getting those eyebrows. Now on the inside for her eye, I'm going to start by following this bottom section. We're going to create the C curve or J curve here, just following the bottom of the oval. And I'm going to pull up. We are making a puppy. She started as a puppy. The top section, I'm going to do a little hill here. And Lady has some very refined lashes extending out here, very long. She's supposed to look pretty dainty. And Lady and the Tramp, you may not have noticed it, but it was filmed entirely from the dog's perspective, so we almost never see any of the human faces, or really more than just their legs. Now, to wake her up, we're going to add in an oval here. Bless you. And we're going to shade this in nice and dark after we lock it in. We're starting to bring her to life here. Now, another feature that Cocker Spaniels have is this kind of pronounced forehead here. So I'm going to pull the curve directly above her eyebrow. And then along the front, I'm going to do the same. So it looks very blocky at the start. We're going to round this little corner out. And I'll lock in that section up there, just going to the top. And we can kind of move down to the snout and everything. Now there is a separation of color, so we are going to add in another S curve. I'm going to start with the letter U coming from below the eye. Looks like a little eye bag there. But then it's going to pull down towards the bottom of her snout here with an opposite curve. So we got a little S curve there. Her smile is going to go directly into this. So I like to start with the end of it, just pulling a little diagonal line down. And I'm going to find on our diagonal line here, we're just going to pull back and round it out. So we can bring it into that, and we're already starting to get that snout. We just need to round out a little bit more in the front too. Now, the story of this originally started from one of Walt Disney's writers. His name was Joe Grant, and he had a Cocker Spaniel that he liked to draw, as well as this Cocker Spaniel that they had was adjusting to life with a new baby. Joe Grant had just had a kiddo. Now, the story, he pitched to Walt. Walt wanted him to add some storyboards and come up with a little bit more, so he did. And he actually ended up putting the story on the shelf for a while. He didn't think it was going to be a big enough story or a complete story, so he left it for a while. But Walt eventually came across a story by Gordon Green called Happy Dan the Whistling Dog, and he thought he could combine the two. So that's why we get a little bit more of the street dogs as well as Lady here. And now that we have this, I would say we're about halfway down. How are we doing so far? Okay, we got a lot of thumbs up, we got a horrible, that's okay. Keep going with it, you got this. You can do it, I believe in you. We're going to add in more of the hair now, a lot more of the body. So let's go ahead and move back into it. I'm going to start down at the bottom here underneath the snout. I'm going to pull some curves here. And we want to keep these light because these are just going to be a little bit more of the body or her front of the chest. So we're going to bring down another S curve, for her. And then in the back, we're going to pull off the circle, go down just a little bit, and then extend it back. There we go. Now, for her ears, they are very long, very floppy, and just that kind of sleek hair. So I'm going to start at the top here, starting with a hill or a half circle. And it gets very wavy as it goes down. So I'm going to do a few waves, and I think I'm going to add in two large waves here. I'm going to bring them closer towards the chest. So nice and light, we're just pulling down all of these C curves, these wavy lines or S curves. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to add in a few waves there. Connect that down to the bottom. We'll leave this for now because we're actually going to add a little bit more texture to it. I'm going to add in the other ear too. Now, the way that Lady was given to her owner in the movie was actually inspired by how Walt gave his wife Lillian a dog. He had this baby chow puppy, and he decided to give it to her in a hat box. Huge mistake. Something not a lot of people know about Lillian was she loved her hats. She wouldn't let anybody pick out her hats, not even Walt. And when he showed up with a hat box, she told him immediately to return it. I will not open this, you get rid of it. He was like, no, please just open it, just please open it. And eventually she gave in and she looked, she's like, thank God it's not a hat. But she was so happy that it was a little puppy instead. And of course it made it into the movie. Now, since we have our hair here, or the ears, let's go ahead and add a little bit extra detail. I'm going to add in her collar. This was a big part of the film, was her being a owned dog instead of a stray dog. And back in the 1950s, was when this was being made, it was actually a big thing to have a dog that you owned that had its own collar. They were starting to do like dog shows and stuff. It's kind of like bragging rights that you had a special dog. I'm going to add in the little collar here at the front, just a little diamond shape, and we'll do another smaller one on the inside. We can lock in her neck and chest here. We're all done with that. And then for the hair, I'm going to go ahead and start by locking in these lines as they go down, but we want some of them to swoop in front of the other. So I'm just going to pull her up and have it go right in front of that other one there. I'm just going to extend this down. Go ahead and lock all that in. There we go. And when they were working on the movie, they actually brought a ton of different dogs, all shapes and sizes, all different breeds, into the studio, just so the artists could draw them all and get a good variety of examples for the animation. And I think they really did a great job with that. One of my favorite parts of animation is the research that they get to do, especially when it's a location thing. This one, of course, was not, but a lot of other movies like Big Hero 6 or Lilo and Stitch are location films based on real places. So they have to go to those locations and experience them, try out a lot of things, experience the culture, draw everything that they can. And so they usually have a lot of fun experiencing that. Go ahead and get the ears locked in here. We'll lock in just this little section of the back as well. And we'll finish things up with some shading. There we go. Now, for shading this, the snout here is just going to be left white, same with the chest here. But the rest of her, we can go ahead and give some light shading to. And then her ears are a different or a darker shape, so if you want to push down your pencil just slightly more, you can get a little bit more of that shading in there. Neck here. And here. And this is going to be pretty much everything we need for our sketches of the lady. A fun thing that I just remembered, when they were working on the film, Walt Disney almost didn't put the spaghetti scene in. And it was because he did not think real dogs would do that. He didn't think dogs would actually eat spaghetti like they do in the movie. And so one of the animators actually took it upon himself and brought his two dogs some spaghetti, put it out on the table, and tested that theory out to see if they would eat it like in the movie. And Walt was absolutely right. They do not. They just chowed down, devoured that spaghetti. It disappeared. But that animator was really adamant that he thought it would be fantastic to put in a heartfelt moment, a beautiful moment. And so Walt eventually did put it in. And lucky for him, he actually put it in because it's the most iconic scene in the film. Go ahead and sign.